Hi, I'm Allison Fink, and today I'm giving my demonstration speech. My audience member today is my boyfriend, Nicholas. And today I'm going to talk to you about something that's really important. But first, imagine that your heart is pounding, that you can't really think clearly, and your hands are shaking, and you're just stumbling, and you don't know what's going on. All you know is that you really need sugar, and you need it right now. That's exactly how it feels to be a diabetic with low blood sugar, which is actually a life-threatening condition. Someone you know most likely has diabetes, and so that's why today I'm taking the time to show you how to help a diabetic in cases of emergency and in everyday life. But before we get into that, I want to tell you what actually diabetes is. Diabetes is what's called an endocrine disorder. It means that you are not able to process sugar properly. So for example, if you eat, you create sugar, and that sugar goes into your bloodstream. And in order to balance out how much sugar is in your blood, you need to have a certain amount of insulin. And the key is having them in the same amounts and not having too much insulin or too much sugar. If you have too much insulin, you have what's called low blood sugar, and if you have too much sugar, you have too much high blood sugar, and both of those things are very dangerous. And so I'm going to tell you how to handle those situations here in a minute. But first I want to tell you a quote from the Mayo Clinic, and it says, if your pancreas secretes little to no insulin, type 1 diabetes, or your body doesn't produce enough insulin or has become resistant to insulin's action, type 2 diabetes, the level of glucose in your bloodstream increases because it's unable to enter the cells. So without insulin, your body just builds up sugar and becomes clogged, and you start to feel really, really bad. And diabetes is actually a genetic disorder. It's not contagious, so you don't ever have to worry about getting it from someone you know. So first of all, let's talk about how to handle a situation where the diabetic has low blood sugar. A lot of times this is the most likely for a situation for someone who's a non-diabetic to become involved in, because the diabetic doesn't necessarily have all their faculties ready. Because as soon as you have too much insulin in your bloodstream, then all of your organs start to shut down, especially your brain. And it's very difficult to think and process things when your brain's not working. So there's a couple different signs you should look for. Oftentimes, diabetics who have low blood sugar will become very spacey and out of it. I suffer from short-term memory loss when I have low blood sugar. If you ask me a question, I can't remember what you said by the time you finish your sentence. And so oftentimes diabetics will seem somewhat out of it and maybe just a little bit weird in general. Sometimes your friend might have shortness of breath, not be able to catch their breath and not sure how to handle a situation and just seem like they're constantly running a marathon. Other times they might be having shaky hands or just totally vibrating like something is going on, but they're just out of it because they don't have enough sugar in their blood. So there's a couple different ways you can help your friend. Oftentimes diabetics will carry sugar with them, such as glucose tablets, and in my case I always carry juice with me because it's the perfect solution for me. But if those things aren't on hand, candy like Skittles is very popular to use to raise your blood sugar when you need it. If your friend is unconscious or not very responsive, give them some icing underneath their tongue and immediately call 911 because you are in the middle of a medical emergency and they need medical attention right away. But if the diabetic has too much sugar in their blood, then that means they need insulin. And oftentimes diabetics who have high blood sugar are easy to spot. There's like either really out of it and really groggy all of a sudden, or really irritable all of a sudden, or the most common symptoms that's noticeable is drinking way too much water and going to the restroom way too many times because their body's trying to flush out all of that sugar. And so the best thing to do is to give insulin and to either help the diabetic get that insulin with either injections or through an insulin pump, or to bring them a hospital visit if they can't have their blood sugar go down. Now, this is how to help them in everyday life, because not everyday life is emergencies, and so it's important to know how to just treat a diabetic, because people either pay too much attention to diabetes or pay too little attention to diabetes. And so the best thing to do is to just be discreet. Don't pay too much attention to it and draw attention to the fact that they have a disorder. If something is going wrong, be quiet about it and don't make a big scene. Second of all, respect their privacy. they may not necessarily want to share all of their information at the same time. They may want to keep what their blood sugar numbers are to themselves. So unless you think that there might be an emergency, it's always wise to just let them keep it to themselves unless they want to share it. In general, just don't treat them any differently than you treat anyone else. It's a normal thing. Diabetics always want to live normally and to act like they're totally normal. But sometimes things can get hard. And when things do get hard, all we really need is someone to just be there with us and to give us a hug and maybe give us some sugar if we need it. So just be understanding if they aren't in a normal position, but usually just treat them like they're totally normal. One of my pet peeves is someone telling me what I can and cannot eat, because that's something that's told to me by my healthcare professional, and so there might be some factors that other people aren't taking into account because they don't know what my personal needs are. A lot of people say, oh, you can eat this because it's sugar-free, or oh, you can't eat that because it has sugar in it, and that's not really how diabetes works. Along those same lines, it's a good idea to refrain from giving unsolicited advice and judgment. There was somebody who once told me that if I drank sugar-free soda, it would raise my blood sugar because my body's used to soda having sugar in it, and so therefore it would react as if it had sugar in it. And that honestly makes absolutely no sense from a medical perspective. However, this person was trying their best to help me, and so I tried to listen politely, but it can get really irritating because I've heard all of the same advice before, and from different people, and they all think that it's this new and cool idea, and it really is just something I've heard so many times before. So unless they ask you for advice, it's always a good idea to just let things go instead of telling them what they should or should not do. And so now you know the best way to help a diabetic if they're in an emergency with low blood sugar or if they're in an emergency with high blood sugar. And you also know how to be there for your friend in everyday life. So imagine that your hands are shaking and you feel completely confused and out of it, and you can't really know what you're supposed to do, and you feel so frustrated because you can't get what you actually need, and your friend just hands you that juice exactly when you need it and ends up saving your life. That's something that you are now empowered to do because you know the best thing to do when a diabetic is in trouble. Knowledge really is power, and you have the power to save a life. Thank you.